Normally we start going through taxonomic groups. The protozoans, the single-celled organisms. This group is commonly redoing their taxonomic organization, which is why I will not spend time on as much of the specific taxonomic classification and their traits, but more of a general overview. I will talk about, however, some of the individual species within the group. They are from a very old group and currently in flux isn't really fair. They've been in flux for a long, long time, which is why 10 years ago I gave up actually asking students to identify the taxonomic classification, other than saying they're other than the levels of protozoa and protists. Some of them are plant-like, and they do actually, in the way that they are autotrophic, they actually are capable of photosynthesizing and producing their own food. Others are, and the majority of which are actually heterotrophic, and they feed on other organisms. Protozoa occur as single cells and entire organisms. Frequently when they are single cells, frequently as organisms, the single cells group together and coordinate their activity. It's in a functional manner different than any other organisms. They all life activities are carried out within a single plasma membrane. So in a way that you would think of as a typical animal cell. So you still see many of the same organelles that you saw in a regular cell. Same functions. You see a few other additional things like contractile vacuoles, which are there as a means of maintaining water level within the cell. If the cell takes on too much water, it will rupture, and so the contractile vacuole pumps that water out. You'll find it only in the freshwater cells, in the freshwater protozoans, not saltwater, because it's only a problem in freshwater. Most protozoum absorb dissolved nutrients through endocytosis, so it's just a cellular diffusion. Some, however, have a specialized region known as the cytopharynx. They digest and transport food into food vacuoles that form during endocytosis. So it's absorbed into the cytoplasm and then enveloped into food vacuoles similar to other vacuoles you'd see used in absorbing as a defense mechanism. After digestion, the vacuoles are called egestion vacuoles. So they're labeled differently, essentially. Both asexual and sexual reproduction occur among protozoans, but that doesn't mean that all protozoans are capable of sexual reproduction. Only a small, limited number of them are, and I will discuss that when we get to it. Their forms of reproduction are known as binary fission, budding, and multiple fission or schizogamy, and bisexual methods known largely as conjugation. Asexual reproduction, in this case, the cell is splitting, and it's splitting its organelles with it. That can occur in both, they can split down the side or they can split down the end. And in this case, they are then getting two equally sized cells when they're done. This is binary fission of a ciliate. This is just photos of it. Same thing. Many protozoans exist in symbiotic lifestyles. Symbiosis is a general term. As you will recall, it only means that there's an intimate relationship between two organisms. In parasitism, that relationship is negatively impacting one of the organisms involved and positively impacting one of the others. Not uncommon with some of the protozoans. In this case, sexual stages of the parasite frequently occur within the host, such as in the case of malaria, for example. Offspring of the sexual stage frequently enter the host, and often there are multiple hosts, but so there's an intermediate host where they reproduce asexually. Commensalism is a symbiotic relationship where one member benefits and the other member is neither benefits or is harmed. Mutualism, there's a symbiotic relationship where both are benefiting. This is the current classification for the animal-like protists. I'm just going to put it up there, but I'm not going to actually ask that you remember those names. This is one of the common protists in the Adirondacks, especially. This is Giardia. It's known to cause what's commonly known as beaver fever, which is a very, very unpleasant digestive protozoan disease. The amoebozoans the amoebas have amoeboid movement with lobopodia. The actual little feet that they create are different. They're not all the same. You can have lobopodia. A generic term for them is pseudopodium. Those are called false feet. But the actual shape of them and size of them serves different functions. So when it's a lobopodium, most likely it's being used for movement. So in the amoeba, you'll see a contractile vacuole, endoplasm, ectoplasm, and nucleus. In a euglena, you'll notice a flagella. This is delivery of trypanosoma, which is the little blue thing in the diagram. Delivered by mosquitoes. This is known as African sleeping sickness. There are a couple species of trypanosoma. They're all delivered via mosquito. And if I'm not mistaken, it is lethal if not treated. Some of the other groups that also have pseudopodia, the alveolata is a large group. Again, I'm not actually requiring you to know these names, but this particular group includes the dinoflagellates. The dinoflagellates, which this is one here, are probably best well known for producing red tide. They tend to have algal blooms, which are very detrimental to the ecosystem at the time because they cut off sun and oxygen supply to the habitat. This group also has apicomplexa. This is apocomplexa. This is what causes malaria. This particular protozoan has a very complicated life cycle. Where to start? So the mosquito feeds on its human host. In doing so, it injects apocomplexa, which then travels to your liver. Okay, liver cells are infected. It forms a life stage called the schizont that ruptures and infects the blood. These form immature forms, the trophozoite. Those do a couple things. They form more schizonts, which travel back and rupture. They also form gametocytes, which are also in the blood. So we have more in the liver, we have more in the blood. These travel to red blood cells, and when these red blood cells rupture, that's when your fever spikes. There are a couple different species of apocomplexa. How long it takes for the cells to rupture varies according to the species. So then when another mosquito bites this person, it picks it back up again. And then in the mosquito, it's forming another life cycle, and it's traveling up to the salivary gland so that it can infect someone else. Okay, now we have the ciliates. We're talking about the ciliates, ciliated protozoans. They have cilia. They also have a macronucleus and a micronucleus. Those possessing both of those makes them capable of sexual reproduction via conjugation. This is sexual reproduction via conjugation. So we need to replicate along this path your micronucleus. The macronucleus actually dissolves. It degenerates. The micronucleus is what replicates, and it's that gets transferred between them. And that's it.